Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to the Empowered Harmonizers. And we're zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question. And that was, is the narcissist sort of commitment-phobic? Can they ever really love? Can they ever really commit to an individual? So we really want to zoom in and focus in on that. And when we understand commitment, when we understand love, when we understand being transparent or being emotionally or spiritually naked with somebody, it means that you're able to let your hair down. You're able to be you. You're able to live life from a heart center and not overanalyze the relationship or what you need, and not throw things off out of balance, out of kilter through pathological needs. In other words, where someone has jealousy, when someone has clinginess, when someone has hyper arousal, where they're just, they're into high risk behaviors, and then they exploit or take other people down with them. Either, high risk behaviors with business or gambling or spending, or their health behaviors, which can be high risk, trying to fill the void through drinking, through eating. In other words, these pathological behaviors, which might not suit another person, for you to be taken down in that, but yet it can be like osmosis. You begin to, work, feel through these. You begin to engender or take on these poor habits while you're with these individuals, especially if you want to be committed. In other words, I will do this if it's you and me against the world. So when we really look at the core of commitment and love, love is really truly the absence of fear. If you are with someone who you feel joyful, of fun, you can get things accomplished, you can have functionality in your relationship. You're not hitting all these stalemates, these blackouts, these speed bumps with issues of jealousy, of low self-esteem. These are the toxic situations or experiences that will then pollute or toxify the relationship. It'll taint the relationship. Where someone has a pathological need to be, the colorful one, the bright one, the life of the party, while they want their spouse to, or the one that they love to be just murking in the shadows, and that's not your personality. That's not you. You're not one to just kind of sulk and brood around and just, be somebody's second fiddle. You want to participate and you want to be yourself and not just be equated with so-and-so's spouse or, the Mr. to someone's Mrs. or Mrs. to someone's Mr. You want to truly have your own identity. And there's been some really severe situations and cases where the spouse was so controlling that, it was not a marriage. It was just like, you are because of me. You have this because of me. And they would never let them forget it. He would never call her by her first name. He would call her by her, Mrs. Let's just say his last name was Mackenzie. Mrs. Mackenzie, you would never call her by Mom or Lynn. It was just Mrs., his last name. And so she literally had no identity. She had to completely dissociate from who she was, what she wanted, her family. She had to sort of empty herself out just to be this person, to be in a commitment with this relationship. But do you see how that would be indicative of someone who's too controlling, too fear-based, and really intimidated by having, that person is intimidated by having someone else in the limelight, having any, credentials, credits. They feel very threatened, if someone else has the goods or is a good person. In fact, the narcissist would hitherto prefer to be treated as, the bad boy or bad girl and not be able to, commit in the way that commitment is supposed to be engendered. They would much rather make excuses and entitlement and live by pathological lies of why they dress provocatively even though they're married, or why they go out with these people after work, after hours, after the show, and the spouse is not there or given rightful consideration, or they're just not even like a couple. They're just treated like, they're just, someone's there along for the ride, like a chaperone. And so the commitment-phobic really comes to play when the covert narcissist truly does have an insecurity that they can't uphold a commitment. They just have a real phobia. Something's going to happen. They're not going to know what to do. They do not have trust in themselves. It's not that they can't find the perfect partner, because there could be all sorts of perfect partners. You might be a perfect partner. Someone else might be a perfect partner, but they do not have the self-trust and the self-esteem to be marriage material, to give themselves to another, to commit to another. And this oftentimes also parlays over into their job. They're very critical or very condescending, or lack commitment on their job. They might take only very, loosely corporate positions where they're not really to be held accountable for too long. They feel stifled. They feel stuck. They cannot commit to something that doesn't, directly involve them. And so, a commitment phobic is a very real thing with a narcissist, and they might get married, in other words, to appear married, and then just to, especially a psychopath will put on the cloak of marriage, and it will not be a marriage whatsoever. I mean, the person is just literally a shell of a person to this person. They have no humane reference to this person. They have no empathy. They don't feel emotions the way that most do, like the sacraments, or like a sacred person that you've found this soulmate to you, that you feel most complete and enhances your life and cares and would do anything for you. So there is a real issue with commitment phobic with these types of individuals, because they don't feel they have what it takes. And so when you think about it, it's because they're not able to let go of their status, their projects, the things that they want to do, fulfill for themselves independently. They can't balance that within the commitment to another. All they can do is be self-interested and self-important. They want to have time to do this, time to work on that, time, everything has to do with them. And oftentimes they will want people to be committed to them, but they won't commit back. They want, someone to always be there for them, but it's a double standard. It will not go both ways for these people. So you might have endured this. They might have been, married, or try to be married for some period of time, and it ends in divorce, or they'll say things like they'll criticize people who are married, and give statistics like, 50% of marriages lead in divorce. You guys are always unhappy. Look at you after you got married. Look what happened to your body. Look, you guys can never go out anymore. You can never do this. I mean, it's essentially the narcissist can't grow up, and then the other people are growing up, but yet they feel threatened. They, will only continue to take from that relationship and belittle it and say, look at the statistics. They'll always be sarcastic and just, making excuses that it has nothing to do with them. It's just statistics for life in general. They won't see that they are glaringly not marriage material or commitment material, either for relationships or homes or jobs. You'll oftentimes find that they are parasitic in nature, and not able to be autonomous and be committed, because this would, to make them, be the great equalizer, to work for a cause. They feel a lack of identity or a disidentity when they're in those settings, because they tend to merge into the background, and a narcissist just wants to stand out. It has to be all about them. And sometimes that's what people fall in love with, is the fact that these people feel so good about themselves, that like, wow, this person is so charismatic, they're so good looking, they have so much to rave about themselves. But a lot of it is talk, and then how they treat people is quite dissonant from what they portend themselves to be. So it really is quite sad, because there's a lot of people who have put a lot of work into relationships with narcissists, where it just has not worked. It has not panned out. They have loved, for the both of them, they've scratched the other person's back, and they have not had their back scratched, so to speak, on many different ways. The man can't be a man, the woman can't be a woman, at least in the relationship. The roles get confused. And so if it's just too many issues like this, realize it has nothing to do with you. It's nothing that you've done wrong. It's just that there's something within this personality type, which is narcissistic or even psychopathic in nature, which prevents them from really being able to fully commit in relationships. They just don't have the wherewithal. They don't have the focus. They don't have the emotional neurochemistry. They don't have the ability to delay gratification or, for themselves. It has to be all about them all the time. In other words, they just can't exist. They end up hurting people. So, if you've had your heart set on them, it's heartbreaking. I apologize. Perhaps you thought this was the one. Just let the hurt go, because there's nothing you can do to change these people, and you can't explain to them, the values of commitment or having a family or having a home or traveling. It's, you're setting yourself up for an exercise of futility when you try to do that. So just realize that it is what it is. Realize the why to the cause there, and then just give yourself very positive self-talk and say, wow, I did everything I could. I did the best that I could. I was loving to this person, but I will not be depleted from it. I will not be burnt out from it. I won't feel like that there is nothing left for me, because there is. It's just that my love had blinded me, and my heart would basically had leapt up in front of my eyes, and I couldn't hear, I couldn't see what was going on. I couldn't hear. I did not know. But I am back to my senses now, and I have the wherewithal to stand up for my needs. And furthermore, I will then put in my qualifications for those who I choose to be in relationships with, that namely that they will have those qualities of humility as well as that of empathy. So someone who will have empathy for others, they will get how I feel, they will listen, they will be respectful. So oftentimes, it's very important to have emotional considerations, personality considerations, or qualifications before the outer appearance. And everyone says, oh, I want this kind of guy or this kind of girl with this hair, this, when you really need to look at what's going on inside, because that's really what runs the relationship, and that's really what makes things fun, is when you've got someone who can respect you and be, playful, joyful, and yet still allow you your space, your boundaries, your standards. Doesn't feel they have to violate that to be the one up in the relationship. You can find it. You can find the balance. It is out there. But now that you know, you can then take that knowledge and those new qualifications and just let those marinate and let those, meditate on those for a little bit. You become consciously aware. So now that it's part of your psychology, now that it's part of your conscious awareness, and now that a lot of people say you've woken up to it, now you can become attracted to the right person. They will know that they, will be able to interact with you on those levels, because you are living on those levels. You're living with standards. You're living with affirmations. You're living with boundaries. You're living with self-respect. You've let go that past, which has taken up so much of your emotional room, as I call it, your emotional real estate. You've rehabbed, and you're on, I don't want to say you're on the market, but you're psychologically together enough where you know how to say no, and you will put an end to what does not serve you and not feel guilty. But furthermore, it'll help you to better identify actually the right people to surround yourself with, and then get used to surrounding yourself with people then who respect, honor, and appreciate you, and who are intelligent enough to be able to interact. They have the emotional intelligence to be able to be, to be respectful and to be all these things, yet still have fun in the ways you like to have fun. It just doesn't mean that they're going to launch off into a tirade of criticism, insults, where you're used to getting beaten up. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, onward and upward. You can do this. You got this. Just reset your neurology and your neurohormones that flood through your body, so that you'll become sensitized to what you want, versus the old you who had drawn to you some of the other problem makers that just kept you regressing in life. You can do this. You can enforce the new you, feel the new you, feel how good it feels, and then furthermore take that out on your recovery date and into the world, and then begin to merge and mesh this into your everyday activities, and finding new activities which expand you, so you can take that more congealed whole self out into those activities, so that you're not feeling the social anxiety, I'm missing something, all that negative self-talk has gone out the window. Instead, you've got the positive self-talk going on 24/7 in its place. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. And thank you so much for your well wishes for my recovery. I really appreciate it. Much blessings out to you as well.